Weeks go by and days go by. It seems like we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, which is not a good thing. But for some people, this is where people start ramping it up. It's the middle of the season, transitioning into the new year, and a lot of teams are going to start picking it up. And one of the guys we're going to talk with here in just a second, his team is number one in the conference, off to a tremendous start so far, only one loss on the season. And we'll talk with him in a second. That's Coach Ben Howlett from West Liberty. But again, thank you all for joining me. This is episode 8 of MEC Roundup. I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. Thank you all again for joining me. We've been getting a lot of great reviews regarding this podcast. At first, we were just like, let's just test it out. But now we're at 8 episodes in. And quite frankly, I'm surprised I'm still here. So we just continue to knock these episodes out. And I'm very grateful for that. You can always follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7 for all the latest about this podcast and other things regarding the Mountain East Conference as well. You can go on our website at mountaineast.org where you can find standings, statistics, teams, whatever you need, it's there. Believe me, it's there. But without further ado, let's introduce West Liberty Hilltoppers men's head basketball coach, 13-1 on the season, 7-1 in conference, Coach Ben Howlett. And Coach, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me on here, Taylor.
Now, for people that don't know, anytime I get on the phone or I get on a Zoom call like this with Coach Howlett, it's just like a breath of fresh air. It's always good to talk with Coach, X's and O's. I say that about everybody, but it's always good to see Coach Howlett. I appreciate him joining me today. So, Coach, let's talk about this before we talk about anything else regarding the season. You guys had a close game down to the wire with about 9:40 left against Glenville State. You guys outscored the Pioneers 25-18 in the final 9:30 to win that game, including a 9-0 run late in that game. When you look back at that game and your team was able to rally despite only being up 5 late in the game, what are some of your takeaways that you can take away from that game against a good Pioneers team that's great, that's trying to put the pieces together, but still they're always scrapping, they're always going to be Glenville State?
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about is good teams find ways to win when they're not playing well, and good teams find a way to win when they're playing in close games. And I give Glenville a lot of credit. They were down, their starting point guard. They were down their starting center, and I thought the guys that they put on the floor played really hard and played very well. And at times I even thought that we were playing okay, and they were still able to score on us. So I didn't think that, all in all, our defense was very good in that game. And it's something that we have to get better at, and something that we have to take a little bit more pride in. We can't have the MO, we're just going to go out and score you. Whoever we play, we got to sit down and get stops. And I think, towards the end there, the 10-minute mark in the second half, we started to string together a couple stops. And once we were able to do that, we were scoring at an incredibly high rate that entire game. So once we were able to, string together those stops, we put them away there.
Let's talk about the importance of this week. Again, we're in a new year. You guys are on a 9-game winning streak, 13-1, top of the conference. But this week seems to be a very important week. You guys have Frostburg on Wednesday, and then Saturday it's going to be a battle between the number 1 team in the MEC and the number 3 team between you and Fairmont State, which is always a classic, it seems like. Talk about the importance of going 2-0 this week, and then just talking about how important this week will be for you all.
Yeah, I think Wednesday's game's the perfect trap game, and it's the definition of a trap game. And Frostburg is playing way better this season. They've gotten wins over Concord at Concord. They've gotten wins over Glenville. And, a lot of their players are 2 to 3 to 4 year players that have been in that program. So I know that our game with them has been circled, and I fully anticipate Frostburg to play extremely hard. And I think it's going to be a challenging game. Anytime you go on the road, it's tough. And then, win or lose, we don't have time to either celebrate or sulk. We've got to get ready for an always tough Fairmont State team at home. And this is one of those games that, guys talk about for years, and it's that Fairmont home game. They're just always a lot of fun. And obviously we've got a lot of history with Fairmont. and we anticipate a good crowd, and it's going to be a tough game back and forth. And we're just really looking forward to these next two games.
Go back to what you said about that Frostburg game, because I'm going to quote you, and you say you're calling it a trap game. How do you go about preparing your guys for a quote-unquote trap game? Because you never know what to prepare for, except the fact it's going to be a trap game, and you're going to expect the unexpected.
Yeah. So obviously, a lot of people at West Liberty are talking about Saturday's game, thinking that we're just going to go into Frostburg and get the win. It just doesn't happen like that. Like winning is really hard at any level. And they've got scholarship guys. We've got scholarship guys. So obviously they're good basketball players there. And for us, we just talk about this. And we've had this target on our back for a long time. And it's something that, we talk about on a daily basis, that, if we lower our intensity level, one little drop, we're going to get beat, because teams want to beat us. They want to beat the number one team in the conference. They want to beat a top 10 team in the country, and that would make their season. So we have to be ready to play at all times. And, for us, it doesn't change how we approach it. We approach every game the exact same. We practice really hard. We go over the other team's personnel. We go over the other team's set plays, and we just go out there and try to play as hard as we can for 3 minutes.
So you guys are 3-0 to start the new year, and take me back to the first half of the season, from the time the season began to New Year's Eve. If you had to talk about one takeaway, or even a few takeaways that you saw from the first half of the season, what would that be?
As a coach, I think you always go through your schedule before you play any games, and you say, this is where I would like to be, at Thanksgiving. This is where I like to be at Christmas, and so forth. And, as a coach, and I'll tell you this, like, I anticipated us losing 2 or 3 games before Christmas, just because I tried to strengthen our schedule. We have a really good schedule, and I would argue that it's the best that we've had here since I've been associated with the program. So for us to only have one loss right now, and one loss at the Christmas break, that was actually good, and I felt really well about our team. So I'm just kind of waiting. I don't think this team has played a full game yet. Like, we've played bits and pieces where I think we're really, really good, but we haven't put together that 40-minute game yet. And I think it's out there. I've seen it in practice where we have really good days and we're super consistent. And I'm just waiting for that to carry over into a game. And hopefully it comes this week with Frostburg.
So like I said, you guys are 3-0 to begin the new year, including a win over Concord and Glenville State on the road in your last game. But talk about the importance of going 3-0 leading into this difficult stretch. I mean, you got Frostburg next, then Fairmont, then Alderson Broaddus, who's been a sneaky team as well. You're playing 2 of the top 6 teams in the next 3 games. So talk about where you're at now and what you would want to see, almost like a New Year's resolution kind of thing, just talking about the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think for us, for the rest of the year, I think it's very important that we are able to pressure teams. And we've been able to do that a lot this year, just not at the level that I actually want it to be at. And I attribute that to having a bunch of new guys on the team. We've got 6 new guys on the team, and 4 of them play significant minutes. So we're trying to show these guys this is kind of how it works, and it's just taking a little bit longer than it typically does, and that's fine. So I want to be a little bit more consistent in our pressure, and then offensively, I just don't want to get into the rut which we had last year when we were on a 3-game losing streak, where we kind of got away from our style and our brand of offense. And thus far we've went back to that a couple games, and we were just lucky enough to win those. But we've got to be more consistent offensively as well. We've got to be great passers. We've got to have great spacing. We've got to be able to use screens and set screens. And also we got to be able to get offensive rebounds. I think if you look back in my tenure as head coach, we've always been great offensive rebound teams. And I want to continue to do that. And, I just think that's something you got to want to do, because if you don't want to rebound, you're not going to rebound. But if you want to rebound, you'll go get them.
let's talk about some player personnel. But before we talk about guys that have been doing well this season, let's get a quick update for people that don't know about the status of Will Yoakum. We know about what happened to him last year, a season-ending injury midway through the season. Talk about the status of him and what you expect from him for the rest of the season in regards to health.
Yeah. So at Frostburg, ironically, Will tore his meniscus. I believe it was in January or February of last year, and he missed the remainder of the year and did not play in the conference or NCAA tournament. And then came back in the fall, was playing full go and was playing well, really well. You couldn't even tell he was injured. And then freak accident, he was cleared to practice full time. And then 3 days after that, he was stretching and tore his other meniscus and his other knee. So that has sidelined him, and we anticipate Will being back late this month or early next month. And then it's one of those things where we're going to kind of have to ease him into playing. It's obviously tough with our style of play to play regardless if you're in shape, but if you haven't done it in quite some time, he's going to take a little while. But we fully anticipate Will being with us at some point this season, and we're looking forward to him giving us a boost.
How helpful has he been, if any, in regards to helping the new guys in practice since he's been sidelined for almost a year and a half now? Talk about how helpful he's been in regards to off the court.
Yeah. And he and I had a conversation at the end of last year that we needed him to be more of a vocal leader, especially with what we had, leaving the team. And Will has, obviously been more vocal this year, but he's also kind of taken the coach aspect. There are times in drills where he's actually, getting guys together and telling them a play to run, or, he's giving the younger guys some advice. And, even with the redshirting, we're redshirting a couple guys, and Will's a guy that redshirted. And I believe he was, talking to our redshirt saying, yeah, you should take full advantage of this and use this and practice and play every day, but you also get this year back. So he's been really fun to be around. He hasn't, sulked. He hasn't been upset about things. He's been very positive. I think Hilltop Renaissance is really ready to watch him play again.
Okay, so let's talk about the guys that have been playing well this season. Friend of this program, Pat Robinson, who was our first guest on this podcast. He's averaging 20 points a game, 19 points in conference play. Talk about his growth. I know we keep talking about Pat, but it just seems like he continues to impress people night in and night out. Talk about where he's grown and just his development this season.
Yeah, he. I don't think that I've ever seen a more gifted scorer in this program than he is. He can just flat out score, and I think he's a very underrated passer too. I think he's. He can throw the easy pass, but he can also throw the look-off pass, and he can make, the defense look silly at times. I wouldn't trade Pat for any other guard in the country. That's how I feel about him. I think he's just, physically he's so strong. There's really nothing he can't do on the basketball court. And I think I've told Pat, I think as good as Pat can be is if Pat is really, really good, I think this team is going to be really good. And I've told him that multiple times. I think he's having an All-American type of season for us.
Okay, another guy that we've talked about before is Bryce Butler. Bryce Butler is averaging 17 points, but he's actually averaging more in MEC play, averaging 19 points per game. When you look at Bryce's game and how important his game is to this team as well, along with everybody else, talk about how different his game is compared to other guys you have coached as well within the West Liberty program.
Yeah, he's actually like having a coach on the floor. He knows the ins and outs of our program, the ins and outs of our defense, the ins and outs of our offense. And I've said this to multiple people. I feel extremely comfortable when Bryce has the ball in his hands. And I feel like when Bryce is in the game, we're going to be okay. We're going to be just fine. He's kind of our rock. He brings us all together. And this year, I think you're starting to see him blossom as far as scoring, rebounding, assists. We oftentimes put him on other teams, one of their better players defensively. There's really nothing he can't do on the basketball floor. And, he's our leader. He's just a guy that when things are going not going our way, he's a guy that I can look at and say, Bryce, let's get this thing under control and let's get this ship on the right sea here.
Last question in regards to player personnel. Let's talk about newcomers, because you had a good class coming in. It's been very productive as well. Among these newcomers, who's been impressing you the most so far through 14 games?
I think all three. I know this is a generic answer. I think all three transfers have really helped us. And Garrett Denbo, Victor, and Christian. All three guys play significant minutes for us. And I think with Garrett, you're starting to see him do more. And he's super valuable because he can shoot the ball at a high level. And he's such an ultimate team guy. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. He's just fun to be around, great personality. And we've got his younger brother signed for next year, who's having a heck of a season at Ashland High School. And then Victor and Christian had a lot of success at their previous schools. Both were all conference caliber players, and Victor gives us an inside presence that we typically don't have. He's able to block shots, and he's got great feet and great skill on the post. And Christian is our best defender. He can guard multiple positions. He's super good at guarding on the ball, and he's also a guy that he's kind of grown into that point guard role. I feel confident when he's got the ball in his hands, and something good typically happens, when he tries to make a play. So really pleased with those three guys. And then I think all three of our freshmen, two of them redshirting and, from the program. Obviously, Aiden's done such a good job in his transition, and it's night and day from where he was at the beginning of the year. And Dante Spadafora, same thing. It's night and day. He's learning how to play, and Austin Webb is a kid that's actually playing for us right now as a true freshman. And the more Austin plays, the better he's going to get. And right now, it's a confidence issue with Austin. When he goes in there and shows he's got confidence, he's really good. But there's some times, this is typical as a freshman, where the moment's too big, and we're trying to get over that hump with Austin, and we have full confidence in he will.
Last question, and I love asking you this question just because you have so much experience playing in this conference, in the Mountain East Conference, not only as a player but as a coach as well. Talk about the depth with this year's group of teams. When you look at the top six, all the top six teams are 500 and above, both overall and in conference. Talk about how good each and every year this conference gets.
Yeah, I think, the top 4 to 5 teams this year, I think we're just all going to beat each other. I really feel that way. I feel like, Charleston, this is probably, in my opinion, he'll disagree just because that's what he wants to do with me is disagree. But I think this is Dwayne's best team he's had. I think they have no weaknesses, and they're big, and they guard, and they're just so disciplined in what they do. And Tim always wins, no matter where he's at. He wins, and they've got player of the year candidate in my mind, and Isaiah Sanders, and then Cole Von Andorf, who's just been there for 10 years. It seems like he's kind of just the guy that just makes him win. And then you have West Virginia State, who's ultra talented, who beat a really good Emory Riddle team in Hawaii. And then I think you've got a group of teams that are just kind of right there, smushed together in the middle, that can beat anybody. And we've been through some of those teams already, and we've seen their talent. And this league is always good. Every team is well coached. Every team has really good players. Some from the high school level, some from transfers, and I just think this is one of the better leagues in Division II.
Well, Coach, I couldn't agree with you more, first off, but also I appreciate your time as always. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Best of luck the rest of the way this season, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Yep, absolutely. Welcome back into episode 8 of MEC Roundup. We just spoke with West Liberty men's head basketball coach Ben Howlett. Now let's transition to the women's basketball side, where we are pleased to be joined by West Virginia State's very own senior guard, Charity Shears. Charity, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So before we begin, you're from Kentucky, West Virginia State. Had you heard about West Virginia State before making the ultimate decision?
I had heard about them. I knew they were in the MEC, but I really didn't know. I had never been to campus. I didn't really know a lot about the program. So
Had you heard of the MEC before you got to campus?
Yeah, I have family in Parkersburg, so I went to Glenville camps when I was little, so.
Well, now probably the most important question you'll be asked during this whole interview. Are you a West Virginia person or are you a Kentucky person?
Um, I don't know. Probably go Cats.
Oh boy.
Honestly.
Now conclude episode 8. No, I'm just kidding. That's all good. But okay, so cool. So you're a senior this year, and let's sort of just take it from this perspective before we talk about this season. How would you best describe your whole career, your last 4 years with the Yellow Jackets?
Um, it's been long. It actually feels like I just got here yesterday, but we came a long way from my freshman year. The program really wasn't great when I got here, so I just kind of had to stick it out, and we're starting to turn it around. So it's been
So
pretty
it
fun.
seems so it seems like you've been here throughout the whole growth of this program, getting back to its old status. Just talk about not only the program's growth, but how you've grown along with the program. How has that sort of coincided with one another?
Um, when I got here in high school, my role wasn't to score, but when I got here, I kind of had to take on that role. And me and Coach Marshall talked about it, like, I'm going to have to step up and be that person. So I kind of just had to figure out where I fit in and what I need to do for us to be good.
Talk about your relationship with Coach Marshall. You just mentioned how you two worked almost hand in hand with one another at such an early age in your collegiate career, but how impactful has he been, not only as a head coach, but an off the court personality for you as well?
I love Coach Marshall. We're really close. We kind of call each other our ride or die. He jokes about a lot about that, but he's kind of like a second dad for all of us on campus. We know he would really do anything for us. If we need anything, he'll come right from the house and help us. So
Now here's another important question as well. What is your go-to restaurant or eating place, either on campus or in the Charleston area?
oh, me and my teammates, we go to Dunkin' probably every day. Like, we're big coffee people. It's either Dunkin' or Starbucks.
So there's no like in between, since you've already chosen Dunkin', no in between with Krispy Kreme at all. I mean, those are the rivals
Oh,
now.
we went through a phase of Krispy Kreme. Yeah, we kind of got burnt out on that.
Understandable. I understand. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about this season for you all. You guys are having a good season so far. You're averaging right around 11 points per game. Let's do this. Before we talk about the team, let's talk about you. How would you best assess your play so far through these first few games for you all?
I really don't think I'm playing. I don't think anyone on our team is really playing the best that we can. I'm really not shooting well, and I know I need to find other ways to score other than shooting the three. So I'm gonna try to work on that in the next few games. I'm not making shots.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I know that athletes have different methods of improving that field goal percentage or even their averages, to say the least. How do you go about improving your averages?
I think really I'm my biggest enemy. It's really about confidence for me. And so my teammates really work on lifting me up and just telling me to keep shooting. So
You guys are 7-3 so far in the season, 3-2 in conference. If I asked you, what would your biggest takeaway be through 10 games for this year's Yellow Jackets team, what would that be?
I think we've lost a couple games that we know we should have, and we know that. We've talked about how that shouldn't happen and we need to bounce back. We really focus on the little things, and I think those end up being reasons why we've lost games. So we really focus on that in practice.
So then let's talk about that next step or that next leap that you all need to take to pretty much just get back towards the top of the MEC rankings. What would that be? What's that one thing that you feel like that's holding you all back from getting to where you guys want to be?
Probably consistency. We've came out a lot of games and we really hit a wall in the third quarter. And we have a really bad first quarter and a really bad third quarter. So we know we need to work on being more consistent and getting over that.
When you look at this group of underclassmen, you're an upperclassman, you're a senior, as we mentioned. But when you look at this underclassmen, how important is it to try and get them to understand the culture that Coach Marshall has developed in these last few years, and just continuing to do that after you have left West Virginia State?
Yeah, we really worked on trying to change the culture, and I think our group of captains are really good at keeping people focused and, telling people what Coach Marshall expects, what needs to be done every day. So I think they'll be pretty good. We have a really good group of underclassmen. I think they're all really good people. So
talk about the family feeling, being around each other each and every day, being able to learn about each other, where they're from, what they like to do. I mean, obviously Duncan has pretty much united the whole team, but talk about the familyness that is pretty much just the glue that keeps this team together.
Yeah, I really think that's why we're so much better this year. We have a lot of chemistry. We all really like each other and all get along. But like all Christmas break, we've been together the whole time. We're the only people on campus. So we're together 5-6 hours out of the day. We're always doing something together, going to eat, playing cards, going to Walmart. So it really helps us with chemistry on the court.
Couple more, and let's go back to your game. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but it's okay. It's a podcast. but looking at your game, going back to that, you're averaging 11, like I had mentioned earlier. I'll sort of take it from the same angle I did with your team about what's sort of holding you back. You mentioned the averages as well, but what do you think's kind of holding you back from reaching your max potential?
I would say definitely confidence again. I know what potential I have. I just need to step up and fill my role that needs to be done. And when I'm not scoring, I have to find other ways to help the team, whether it be rebounding or getting the ball to whoever's hot or playing defense.
I asked Coach Howlett this question, and I always seem to find different answers among everybody I talk to. But you've played in this conference for 4 years now. When you look at this conference from top to bottom, how would you best describe the level of play in the Mountain East Conference?
It's really crazy because any game, either team can win. One night we could come out and play and score 100 points. The next night we might not be able to score. So it's just whoever comes to play that night.
Would you consider it the best conference in Division II?
For sure. For sure.
You're like, of course. Like, why would you even ask that?
Yeah, for sure.
So last one, and I appreciate you joining me, but when you look at how close it is to how close it is for your career that is coming to an end at West Virginia State, what will you most look back on whenever you look back at these last few years at West Virginia State?
I'm really trying to take in this last year because, this might be my last year. This might be my last year playing with my sister. So I'm just trying to cherish it and, do the best that I can while I'm here. But it's been a good 4 years. I'm happy with what I've done here. So I've been blessed.
Well, Charity, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Best of luck the rest of the way this season, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep, absolutely. That will conclude episode 8 of MEC Roundup with our two tremendous guests, Coach Ben Howlett from West Liberty and Charity Shears from West Virginia State University as well. You can always find this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, along with going on our website at mountaneast.org. And you can always follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7 for the latest about this podcast as well. Thank you all for listening and watching. Stay safe.